Decades ago, my uncle and cousin each had an encounter on the same night. This was my uncle's encounter and one of my third or fourth cousins. Although I had never spoken with my cousin about this, his account was only what my uncle told me. This happened nearly 50 years ago, but my uncle still remembers it clearly. I'll provide a little bit of a background on the area and our family. We lived in the family farmhouse with my grandparents. The house was the last on a dead-end country road within a small community of about 8 or 9 houses. This community was referred to by the locals as Thames River Siding, but really it had no official name. The name derived from the close-by station sign of the CN Railroad. Our family had a band started by my grandfather. He, my mom, uncle, and 2 cousins were in it. On this particular night, they had met for a practice, which by 11 or 11:30 was winding down. One cousin left, and the remaining stayed to help my uncle tear down and put away the equipment while my grandfather tended to the animals. The animals seemed to be very spooked and nervous. This wasn't out of the ordinary, as there was a pack of wild dogs that sometimes made their way through every so often. After concluding the teardown, my cousin left and headed home. My uncle left 10 minutes afterwards. This particular night had either a full moon or a very nearly full moon, as my uncle said it was a very bright night. As he was slowing down and approaching a stop sign, something in the field to his right caught his eye. There's something large and tall standing sort of hunched forward and staring intently in his direction. This happened just as he was slowing down to a stop and about to make a left-hand turn. His sight of this creature went from glancing to his right to over his shoulder, then to the rear mirror as the car stopped. He sat staring at this thing for what seemed like hours. All of a sudden, this thing broke into a sprint and rushed at the car. My uncle said he was like in a trance of disbelievement, like his brain could not comprehend what he was seeing. The field this creature was originally standing on was about 400 to 500 yards away from the road. This thing was covering that distance incredibly fast. Just a few seconds before it reached the car, my uncle snapped out of his terrified trance and slammed on the gas, peeling out of there as fast as his car could. He kept his gaze on the rear mirror the whole entire time. The thing was so close that the taillight was illuminating it, and my uncle saw it reaching out for the car. He said it ran on 2 feet, not on all fours or even partially on all fours. 2 feet. It had dark-colored hair, either brown or black, appeared to have the muzzle similar to a dog, had a pointed ears on top of the head, and eyes that appeared to glow a dim yellowish orange. He said what terrified him the most was that he could tell it wasn't looking at his car. It was looking at him. My uncle raced home and called back to the farmhouse. He told my grandfather to lock the doors and stay inside. My grandfather was confused and asked why, but my uncle said just do it. He quickly mentioned he saw something in the field which he could not explain. Something dangerous. He told my grandfather to lock up and to be safe. A few days later at the next band practice, my uncle and cousin were sitting outside having a smoke. My uncle decided to tell him about what he saw. He was expecting to be made fun of or even be called crazy, but instead my cousin said he saw something that night on his way home as well. As my cousin was approaching a stop, something massive ran across the road in front of him, forcing him to hit the brakes and almost skid off the road. He said he only saw it for a split second as it was moving. From what he could see, it looked like a massive dog or wolf, but it was upright, running on 2 legs. He more or less described the same exact thing my uncle saw. Whatever it was, it covered a good 2 miles, which included navigating some dense wooded areas and a pretty steep-sided ravine in only a matter of 10 minutes at the most. That is very fast. There were reports of strange noises like growling, howls, or barks in the woods along the Thames River. Some of the farmers in and around the time of these sightings said some of their livestock were found dead and partially eaten. Everyone tossed that up to wild dogs that were around. But my uncle and cousin know that was no wild dog.